Guess what, folks? Matt Eberflus is back as the head coach of the Chicago Bears. Okay. Speaking of the Bears, they'll play in London in 2024. The Bulls are on fire. They're feeling fire, feeling hot, hot, hot. The Fire in the Line get a big win over the Michigan State Spartans last night in college basketball. The Bulls will take on the Golden State Warriors tonight. NFL Super Wildcard Weekend is here. Our girl Christine the Queen Manika will preview it for us and give us her hot picks. That and much more as Second City Sports # Football Friday edition starts right now. Welcome to another fun-filled special edition of Second City Sports on the # Football Friday. We're live in 11 color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Mr. Kim McGee, which is she. I am Sydney Brown. Hey, that's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow my Kim McGee on the Twitter, X, I can't go again, the IG.
Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Make sure you follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms, including that iHeartRadio app. Make sure you give War Media a follow at WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Excuse me. Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends. Sorry about that, folks.
We are unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite sports opinions during our 2-hour extravaganza we call it Sports Talk Radio Show, you can always find us at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comments section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you. But if you decide to troll it or do something silly, dumb, or stupid, or try to start a virtual snow fight, I've given Lakina full powers to give you bombs to build a beer boot.
Goodbye. Toodles.
But before we begin, we must remind you can catch Sports Zone Chicago right now, live in 11 color on Roku TV. That's right. So celebrate the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV. If you already have a Roku television, just tap on that sports folder and download that Sports Zone Chicago app. If you don't have a Roku television, but you have some handheld devices laying around, iPhone, iPad, iTouch, your Chromebook, or your PC, just hit up the Google Play Store and download that Roku TV app and access Sports Zone Chicago through that avenue. So no more excuses. Celebrate the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Live and on demand.
Anytime, anywhere.
And you know we will provide.
And we will provide the remedy for the winter blues here, as Sid said in a teaser in the opener. Of course, we got our girl Christine Manika from KXRB to preview Super Wildcard Weekend for us. Of course, you got college hoops, a wild week in college hoops with all the upsets. Of course, the Bulls are gearing up for it tonight. Not only against the Warriors, for the Bulls, Ring of Honor, and who won't show up. We actually told you guys this a couple of weeks ago. and so much more. But first, of course, let's talk some Bears. Bears made some news in the middle of the week. We all pretty much expected that Matt Eberflus is back will be back as head coach. But Luke Getsy, the OC, will not be back. So we'll say bye-bye to him and a couple other offensive coaches as well. They've already interviewed a couple of guys this week. Sid, we'll talk about that in a second. But Sid, what do you think? We've been saying this for like the last month. We told you guys that if the Bears put in a little bit of a run, and they did, they won like 6 of the last 9. Of course, Flus will be back, and that's what ended up happening. So, Sid, what are you thinking? Were you surprised about Flus being retained and Getsy being shown the door?
No, it wasn't surprised because this team, at least defensively, as we told you guys during the second half of the season, that this team was improving, especially on the defensive end, defensive side of the ball, especially after acquiring Montez Sweat from the Washington Commanders. Offense was slowly to catch up. Justin Fields did make some progress at following his return from injury from early in the year, but things haven't come together just yet for the Chicago Bears. And you can look back at the schedule that it was about 3 or 4 games where they had double-digit leads or they were in at the last minute and they lost those games. That's the reason why they're sitting at home right now instead of preparing for Super Wild Card weekend. As a prediction that I said on this show, Lakina, following that bye week for the Bears, I said if they win 3 games or more, Eberflus would be back. As you mentioned, they won 6 out of their last 9, 4 of their last 6, and Eberflus is back. Here's the question now since Luke Getsy is gone. Of course, the obvious question is, will GM Ryan Poles keep Justin Fields or will he trade him around NFL draft time, which is April 24th, I believe. And Ryan Poles has till May the 3rd, I believe, to decide if the 5th-year option will be picked up on Justin Fields' rookie contract. That's the number one question. The number 2 question is, will Matt Eberflus get that contract extension? Here's 2 reasons why. One, because pressure will be on him next year to make the playoffs entering his 3rd year. Obviously, if the Bears make the playoffs, he'll get that contract extension, whether we like it or not. Number 2, the contract extension comes into play for Eberflus. It depends on which offensive coordinator will they hire. If you're an experienced offensive coordinator, you want some long-term security. And if that's the case, Matt Eberflus right there, before you step on the field officially in 2024, will have job security as well, because you want to marry that offensive coordinator with that head coach and to coach the offensive system, whoever's going to be the quarterback, whoever it's going to be, whether it's Justin Fields, Caleb Williams, Drake May, Michael Penix Jr., or whoever. So you can understand, I can understand it from the stability standpoint of it, but looking at this logically, Matt Eberflus does not deserve a contract extension just yet, but I can understand why he'll get it. It depends on who they hire as an offensive coordinator. But a lot of things are in play for the Chicago Bears. And I'm just glad I'm not GM Ryan Poles right now.
Yeah, they've already talked to a couple of guys, like I said earlier, of course, Shane Warnham, who is the passing game. Well, no, he's the OC for the Seahawks. Clint Kubiak, I should say, who is the game coordinator for the 49ers. So those 2 names have already been interviewed, or they've at least requested to be interviewed. Some other names that are being floated around, perhaps, Greg Roman, who is the former OC with Baltimore. Of course, that didn't end so well those last couple of years there. Ken Dorsey, who actually the Bills' offense actually got better when he got shown the door. So he's out there now. I've heard some people even said Cliff Kingsbury, which I'm like, okay, well, I mean, I can kind of see that, but, you probably do that if you're going to draft Caleb Williams, and we still don't know what's going to be the future of Fields, so we'll see what happens there. Kellen Moore is another name that's being flown around. Of course, the Chargers OC, we'll see if, he's going to be a hot, hot demand as well with all we'll talk about that more with our girl Christine in a little bit, but what do you think? Any of those names, kind of pique your interest in?
Maybe Kellen Moore, because he worked with Dak Prescott before working with Justin Herbert with the Los Angeles Chargers this year. So that name I kind of like. But here are some names that piqued my interest. I know various outlets have thrown these names out there, in particular Greg Roman. I think he's doing high school football, as I heard. If I'm wrong on that, please correct me. But his name's been out there. He worked with Colin Kaepernick. He worked with Lamar Jackson, currently the quarterback of the Baltimore Orioles. Frank Wright, who was the former head coach of the Colts and the Panthers this year. Also, too, you have Brian Griese, former NFL quarterback and, of course, short-time broadcaster. He's the current QB's coach of the San Francisco 49ers. You have Byron Leftwich. That's not a bad name. I think that's a sneaky good name, of course. His last job was offensive coordinator of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which he won a ring with, by the way, helping out Tom Brady. Also, too, you mentioned Cliff Kingsbury and Zach Robinson.
Yeah, Zach Robinson has been another name that's being flown around. I know Frank Wright's name's been thrown around too, but let's also remember what kind of transpired with him being fired. Remember, he wanted C.J. Stroud and not Bryce Young. So that kind of started the whole thing
Right. That
there.
was more on Carolina's management than Frank Wright, but that's a whole other
Right.
issue right there.
Well, yeah, that's a whole different. Well, yeah, I know he wanted Stroud, and I know that the manager wanted Young, so that kind of sort of like the ending of that. But yeah, I mean that's interesting. Those are some interesting names. I know Byron Leftwich. I mean, is he? Well, here's the thing though. If you're gonna be the OC, I think one of the things is gonna be like, okay, what's the future of QB? Are you gonna keep Fields? Are you gonna trade him? Will you draft like a Caleb Williams or a Drake May or somebody like that? I mean, that's really going to be kind of like the issue here for the Bears. And I think that's going to be the thing, especially since some of the staff's already in place. So you're not going to be able to change anything. You're going to want to bring your own guys. So that's another layer of contention that's going to be the thing for whoever he ends up being the new Bears OC. So there's still a lot of elements here that are at play. And I think that this is going to be the interesting thing about like, okay, what kind of system is this? Is going to be like what Justin's should he stay? This is going to be what his third or fourth different system. So now he's got to learn a new system. You got to have other guys. I think the O-line, coach is still there, and some other things. So yeah, I mean, it's sort of one of those things where I know people are kind of Bears fans are kind of like divided on like this is a good idea, but the others think it was. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what direction Poles and Eberflus decide to go.
You're listening to Second City Sports on the hashtag Football Friday edition. We're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakina here with you, talking the Chicago Bears in their press conference from early in the week. They decided to keep head coach Matt Eberflus, but fire the entire offensive staff. Lakina, one clue that we'll have in terms of the future of the quarterback position for the Chicago Bears, of course, is free agency, which is in early March, and that's the new league calendar year. And we'll see what moves they make because, as we said before, they need a couple of offensive linemen. This is a good year as far as the draft for left tackles, and the Bears need a couple of offensive linemen. Also, too, wide receiver. Are you going to pick up one in the free agency, or are you going to acquire one via trade? Because I think if they acquire one via trade prior to the draft, a number one wide receiver, we know one that they'll probably end up keeping Justin Fields because he's still cheap on that rookie contract that he's currently playing under right now. So one small tail sign coming up is free agency in March. We'll see what kind of moves that this Bears team will make. Because if they don't spend a lot of money in free agency, that's going to be a big telling sign right there.
Yeah, that's going to be like the number one question. How much will Poles spend? And because I know people are kind of like gravitated to the fact that they still got a lot of money left against in the cap space. But again, he's probably not going to spend all that money, and he may not spend any of it on free agency. He may just build through the draft, especially if they trade Fields and trade back and get some more picks. So I can kind of see him doing that. So yeah, we still don't know what. I don't think, like I said, I don't think Poles even made up his mind. Maybe he has, he hasn't told anyone yet. But it's really going to be the telltale sign of whether or not they keep Fields or not. And for the way it sounds, it doesn't sound like he's endorsing Fields. But again, I might be wrong, so I have to wait and see about that.
Yeah, it's a big cat and mouse game at Hallis Hall right now. So we have over 3.5 months to discuss this, Lakina, as we'll say this here, and we'll probably say it again as we go along in this offseason. When there's actual Bears news to break in that Bears conversation, we'll do it because everybody and wherever outlets you're listening to, including ours, they're going to have this player, that player. Oh, this player will fit the Bears. We'll talk about that for 2 hours. That player will fit the Bears. Let's talk about that 2 hours. We don't. What we try to do here is bring you actual information and then discuss it here on Second City Sports. We're not just going to filibuster with a bunch of BS just because of that. That's not us. So when it's actual Bears news to break and to discuss, we'll discuss it here on Second City Sports. Of course, we'll have people who cover the team to talk with us about it throughout the all season. We'll get into deeper discussions with them then. But Lakina, this is going to be an interesting off season, and people are going to throw names out there, throw crazy trade scenarios to fill in content. We actually talk about actual information on the show, and we'll try to keep that at bay for you guys here on Second City Sports.
That's how we do it here. We've been doing that for years, and we're not going to change now. So, sorry, folks. So, it might be a welcome sign for some of y'all. So, we'll see what happens there. And as it comes, we will tell you guys about that. Now, as we're at the bottom of the hour, we're going to take a quick break. Of course, the Bulls, starting to kind of get a little bit of a run going. And of course, the Bulls bring honor. And we'll tell you who's not going to be there tonight as they face the Warriors. And the rest of the crazy weekend in the NBA, a lot of blowouts last night, especially. So we'll talk about that and a whole lot more. Lakina McGee, Sydney Brown, Second City Sports on Sports of Chicago with Doc Harwood in the NBA coming up right after this.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I need for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too.
These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
And I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you, your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on this Friday edition. We're live in the living color right here on Sports Soul Chicago. I'm Sid Deslakina. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at CK80. Once again, that's CK80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow my Kingdom McGee on the Twitter, X, and can't go again, the IG.
Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. We have 85 minutes left or so in this extravaganza we call it Sports Talk Radio Show. If you have any questions or comments, you can always find us at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comments section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you.
All right, Sid. Let's talk some Bulls and NBA. The Bulls are back in action tonight against the Warriors, of course, during the game that they'll be doing the Bulls Ring of Honor. And one of the things that I think we already saw when we talked about this when it first came, first came about a few weeks ago, was that of course they're honoring they're honoring a 95, 96 team that of course won 70 some games, and we know some people that won't be there. Of course, Michael Jordan actually posted a video yesterday saying that he's not going to be there, which I don't know why folks are so stunned by that. I don't understand. I mean, I know we told y'all when this whole thing came out that that he wasn't gonna come, somehow. But look, it was great to see, guys like Tony Kukoc, who's of course an ambassador for the Bulls. Of course, Steve Kerr was part of that team, of course the Warriors. That's one of the reasons why they did it. You saw Phil Jackson there looking good, and also too, of course, Luke Longley. I mean, it was great to see him because he said he hasn't been in Chicago like almost a decade. So
the big Australian.
I know, right? The Aussie Stallion, as they called him way back when. So what you thinking? Were you surprised that we got that news that MJ wasn't going to be there tonight?
No, I'm not surprised. We all know Michael wanted a piece of the team when he retired from basketball before he went to the Wizards. That wasn't going to happen. His ties to Chicago after the '98 season has been, uncommon to say the least, according to some people. But hey, the man is living his life the way he wants to live it, and I don't blame him for that. Would have been great for all Bulls fans to see him in the house tonight, of course. But this man has other interests and other businesses that he has to run, so he can do whatever the heck he wants. So I'm not surprised by that. I don't think Scottie Pippen's going to be there either. So, and we all know what kind of things that he's been saying about MJ and everything about that over the last couple of years, so we won't get into that. But looking through social media and watching some of the stuff on our local newscast last night, you mentioned Tony Kukoc. I believe who still stays in the area was there. Of course, Will Perdue still does great work with NBC Sports Chicago. He was there last night covering it there. And it was nice to see Ron Harper, James Buddha Edwards, John Sally, who's always the light of the party if you followed his NBA career. So, yeah, he was there last night. And so Randy Brown was there last night as well. So it was nice to see some of those guys again. I just want to see what kind of ceremony is going to be tonight to honor these guys and to honor the other members as well who are going to the initial Ring of Honor for this Bulls franchise.
Yeah, and I'm sure NBC Sports Chicago will have coverage of all that. So, you guys check that out there during their game against the Warriors. Now, to the Bulls on the court, the Bulls, had a little bit of as our buddy Matt Peck from CHGO Bulls would say, well, let's just say, okay, they had a little bit of a hard time against Houston. Of course, they were up by 8. Houston came back to force overtime, but they did do just enough to win that game, beating the Rockets by 5, 124-119. Again, not the prettiest, but look, they go to 18-21. Of course, they face the Warriors tonight. And the Warriors only trip to the UC this season. So that's probably why they did the Ring of Honor, tonight. Zach LaVine, go back to Wednesday's game against the Rockets, 25 points for Zach LaVine. Of course, Vooch had 18 and 15 boards. DeRozan had 19. So, again, not the prettiest. They only scored 18 points in the fourth quarter, the Bulls did, but they did just enough to win it. And LaVine, led the way in OT.
Couple of observations here. One, you can tell that Zach LaVine is still trying to get his timing back. You saw that a little bit in that Charlotte game on Monday, which they also won on the road. But this game against the Rockets, you can tell he's starting to get a little bit more confidence back in within the flow of the team. You mentioned he had 25 points and 13 rebounds. He was big, especially in that overtime. Also, to Kobe White, who struggled toward the end of the calendar year in December and to start out January. He's starting to pick it back up again. I know he's been averaging closer to 31 points the last couple of games before Wednesday night's victory over the Rockets, and he's starting to pick it up again. But as I told you, Lakina, from the start of the season until now, this team has to average between 25 and 32 assists as a team for this team to win. They picked up 31 assists as a team. But the other problem that I had, Lakina, and we've been saying this for the last couple of years, points in the paint. The Houston Rockets dominated them inside scoring in the paint, and it was just brutal. I like that Sagan kid for Houston. Remember, he did damage against the Bulls at the day after Christmas last year. He had 25 points and 9 rebounds. And Fred VanVleet, Rockford's very young, in his only appearance in Chicago this year. Their point guard for the Houston Rockets. He also scored big as well. He had 20 points and 6 rebounds. So I like that Houston Rockets team, Lakina. I know they're in the play-in tournament. The season would end today, but this Bulls team, I'm not going to crap on them just yet. Are they a top 6 team in the league? No, but I think they're good enough just to make the play-in and everything stands pat.
Yeah, and I think that they could, like I said, they've beaten the Nuggets this year. They've beaten a couple other top teams, especially out west. So this team is not, like to be taken lightly. So the fact that the Bulls were able to kind of overcome like the Gyps and the Yips, I should say, in the fourth quarter to come back and win it in overtime, I think that's a big victory for the Bulls. So you'll take it. So yeah, I mean, you had a good week there. Of course, like you said, they beat Charlotte, in Charlotte. So. They got their 2-0 this week. So a nice little showing for the Bulls. We'll see if they can keep it going against the Warriors tonight.
Yeah, and what do you expect out of this game tonight? We'll dive deeper into the Warriors in just a second, but what do you expect from this Bulls team tonight? Of course, Draymond Green has been cleared to practice with the team. I don't think he's going to play tonight, but he still has Steph. Chris Paul is out with a broken hand, which is devastating for them because he's been one of their only few sustainable pieces all year. So it's Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, everybody else tonight. But from the Bulls' perspective, what do you expect from them tonight?
I think they can keep up with the Warriors. Like you said, I mean, if he can catch Steph in a bad shooting, Steph loves playing here in Chicago, loves putting on a show. So I'm sure he's going to want to, get those threes going. And if he gets going, they're going to be tough to beat. So, but the Bulls actually have beaten the Warriors before at home. So this is not like they're scared.
They did it last year.
Yeah, so it's not that they're scared of the Warriors, so they can definitely do it. And I think since Levine's getting better, Vooch is getting better, I think they can definitely hang with them. Now, will they beat them? I don't know, but I think Klay Thompson, if he and Steph are kind of like they can get it going from the 3-point range, and they're the only ones that are providing that offense for the Warriors, as we've seen in some of those games lately. I think the Bulls may have a shot here to perhaps beat them. But again, if the Bulls need to kind of, get, like you said, pass the ball around, get the offense through Vooch, making sure DeRozan gets his shots. Kobe White, he's starting to kind of get out of his funk a little bit. He's had some good games the last 2 games. So if they can kind of get it going here, they can kind of counteract, whatever the Warriors going to throw at them. I think they can definitely keep up and perhaps maybe win again.
I want to see the Bulls improve their defense, especially within the interior, which means more rebounding. I know the Rockets rebounded the Bulls with a +4 margin, 50-46 in their last game on Wednesday. But I want to see the Bulls be more active on the boards. As I mentioned, Zach LaVine grabbed 13 of them on Wednesday in that overtime win over Houston. But I want to see Andre Drummond step up with some more minutes tonight and bring that intensity off the benches, especially on the defensive end. I want to see Vucevic have a little bit more confidence and step up his rebounding game as well. So, and Patrick Williams, he's been having a disappearing at these last couple of weeks or so. So I want to see him get back on track tonight. Because remember, he was one of this, perhaps the second best player on the Bulls during the month of December. His play's been dipping a little bit these last couple of weeks. I want to see him improve his game tonight as they take on the Warriors.
Maybe seeing a lot of that too. I think Vooch may have a big game tonight too, especially on the inside, because that's been the Warriors' weak spot. So he might have a big game. He and Drum may both have big games tonight. So we'll see about that. As Second City Sports on Sports on Chicago, Lakina McGee, Cindy Brown with you. Now we're gonna go around the league here, talking some NBA. Blowout Thursday, as I call it, because some of these games were blowouts for the most part. Phoenix beat the Lakers 127-109. Bradley Beal, his first games back, starting to find his groove a little bit. 37 points, a season high for him. So now that Beal's back, I think now it looks like maybe the Suns are finally becoming that Suns team that we were hoping to see in this earlier this season.
Can we shut up the Kevin Durant wants to be traded talk? Even Kevin Durant said to himself, like, yes, I'm frustrated with things that are going right now, but I do not want to be traded. This is not Brooklyn. Stop it. All right, enough of that. Absolutely. But as we talked about all season long, Lakina, it's all about getting healthy and gelling with the Suns team, as we mentioned, with all the injuries. And hopefully Bradley Beal can stay healthy. If he does, Durant, and Devin Booker will be an unstoppable force offensively. But you said Nurkic defensively brings a glue to that team defensively. And we talked about what Grayson Allen has done for this Phoenix Suns team defensively as well. So long as those guys can stay healthy, I think Phoenix will be fine. Now, can they crawl back to that top 6 spot? I think they can. Just one good long stretch of winning will do that for this Phoenix Suns team.
And I think they can do it too. Like I said, just gotta
I think so too.
Yeah, they can keep everybody healthy. That's going to be the key. Now, going to Dallas now, as the Mavs give the Knicks their first loss since the OG Anunoby trade, 128-124. This is without Doncic, who had a ankle injury, so was nursing an ankle injury. But let's see Kyrie Irving back. He had a season high 44. Tim Hardaway Jr. had 32 points. So it was really the 3-point range. Hardaway Jr. was 6 for 13 from 3. Kyrie was 6 for 10 for 3 as well. That's what kind of propelled the Mavs over the Knicks.
Yes, we said before, we'll say it again. There's other guys who had to step in and help out Luka and Kyrie. You mentioned Luka didn't play last night, but then you mentioned Tim Hardaway Jr., Derrick Jones Jr., who's now a former Bull, by the way, now with the Mavericks. All those other guys had to step up. It's a total team effort to help pick up the production that you lack from Luka. So that's what happened last night, and Dallas came out with a victory. And also, too, head coach Jason Kidd, he's got to tighten up their team defense. I know they gave up 124 last night, but remember how they got to the Western Conference Finals a couple of years ago. They commit themselves to the defensive end, and that's how one of the reasons why they got there. Let's see, they need that kind of a turnaround again.
Absolutely. So, like I said, we'll see, what happens with the Mavs, and hopefully they can get that consistent play if Doc is going to be in and out of the lineup with that ankle. The blowout thing continues as the Thunder just hammered the Blazers 139-77. Easily one of the lowest points scored by the Blazers. It's not the worst, but I think it's scored like 58 years ago in the total of the game. But it was all Thunder here as Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had 31. Jalen Williams had 21. Also, Chet Holmgren had 19. So it was basically it was a 3-point fest there. They shot almost 40% from 3. So pretty impressive by the Thunder.
Yeah, so he said before, we'll say it again. The OKC Thunder is this, is this year's version of the Sacramento Kings, coming out of nowhere. Of course, last year Oklahoma City came close in participating in the NBA playoffs. This year they're turning a huge corner. And Chet Holmgren is your top 2 candidate for NBA Rookie of the Year. Of course, he missed his original rookie year last year with that ACL injury. But you mentioned Jalen Williams, my guy. He's contributing mightily offensively. People pay attention to him. You talk about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who's going to be an all-star, in my opinion, again this year for the second year in a row. So I like the way that team is playing. We all know about the struggles on the flip side for Portland. So it like I said, just looking at that score last night, Lakina, it's like you're the big brother playing against your little brother in a video game, and that little brother, when he plays that video game long enough, he'll beat you like that. I'm just saying.
Yeah, the Thunder love playing the Blazers, as they're the first team in NBA history to outscore an opponent by 100+ points over a span of 2 games. Remember, they beat Portland by 43 in November. So that this game last night was even worse than that first game.
That's your stats.
Yeah, so I'm like, okay, yeah, that's that's brutal. I think they only play each other one more time. Thank goodness if you're glad about that if you're Portland. Speaking of the blowouts, again, the theme continues as the Bucks just beat the Celtics 135-102. Bobby Portis, Bobby, as we call him, played here in Chicago. 28 points for him. And sort of like this, it was basically. I think TNT cut away from the game. I think because it got so bad. So and this was actually without no Giannis. So this is even more impressive they were able to do this without Giannis. Just struggles from the field for the 3-point range, especially for the Celtics. Only 9 for 35 from 3. Tatum 7 points. That's not a typo. Jaylen Brown only had 10. So it was just Again, if you're a Celtics fan, you just take the tape and just burn it. Just burn it. Just burn it if you're a Celtics fan.
And plus, Boston they were playing on the second game of a back-to-back. They had to travel from Boston from the previous night, and they played an emotional game against the Minnesota Timberwolves at home.
Yep.
They had to come back from double digits to beat Minnesota in overtime. So they put all their heart and energy into that game, and so they didn't have it last night. As you said, they'll burn the team. I think the Celtics will be fine. It's a long 82-game season. Unfortunately, these things happen sometimes. So if you're a Celtics fan, you may be disappointed in the moment, but I don't think this is not going to have a lingering effect down the road. This is a young veteran group, and they should let it affect them.
Yeah, if you saw that game, we'll talk about the game in a second. If you saw that game on Wednesday, it was really a grind. They literally had to grind it out. They were down by like 13 points going into the late in the third, and they got into a run. They were able to pull it out. So you kind of saw they were already worn out. So and there was no Giannis there either for Milwaukee. So that was a kind of a pull out a throwaway game if you're both of them. So,
we know this one thing: he didn't have to look for the game ball.
No, he didn't. No,
because he didn't play.
He didn't play. So whatever. But hilarious. Brooklyn and Cleveland, of course, they played in Paris. Brooklyn's been very well traveled. This is actually there's 6 different countries they played in. Of course, they played in Paris. In Paris, France. Yesterday, of course, unfortunately, they lost to the Cavs. It was actually close, 111 to 102. 45 points, a career high for Mr. Donovan, season high, I should say, for Mr. Donovan Mitchell. And they put on a little bit of a show down there in Cleveland. They're starting to kind of get a little bit better as guys are starting to get healthy.
Yeah, if you're a Bulls fan and you're thankful for the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Brooklyn Nets, because these are 2 teams that are going in opposite directions. Of course, Cleveland trying to get back on track as they get their guys back healthy, including Donovan Mitchell, as you mentioned. The Brooklyn Nets, they have just been tanking over the last 2 or 3 weeks. And right now, the Bulls are sitting at the number 9 spot to participate in the play-in tournament. Thank you, Brooklyn Nets, for falling.
For free fall, exactly.
Yes.
So you're happy if you're a Bulls fan right now. I know some people aren't, but it's a whole different conversation. To Wednesday's games, you got, of course, the Clippers held off Toronto. Utah with a nice win over Denver, 124-111. Jordan Clarkson had 27, and Utah's playing a little bit better lately.
Yeah, will it be enough for them to participate in the play-in tournament? I'm not sure, but you still have young guys like Lauri Markkanen, former Chicago Bull, who was an all-star last year. I know they got out to a little bit of a rocky start, but I don't know if they can get on the roll here in time for the playoff to participate in the play-in tournament. But that's another team we talked about with the Rockets earlier. It's another team that you cannot take your eyes off of, Utah. So even though they didn't have a surprising start this year, unlike last year, you still got to be careful with them because they could become a dangerous team if you look past them.
Absolutely, definitely a team to look out for there. The Pelicans just hammer Golden State 141-105. That's got to be that's probably one of the highest points totals that Golden State has given up, especially during the Steve Kerr era. So just a bad shooting night for the Warriors. So that's gonna be interesting. Something to look out for as they play the Bulls tonight. OKC beat Miami 128-120. Overtime, Atlanta beat Philly 139-132. Trae Young had 25 there. Pacers only scored 112, but they did beat the Wizards 112-104. Spurs beat Detroit. You hope this isn't the start of another long losing streak for Detroit, but hopefully that's not the case. Kings beat the Hornets as the Kings continue their East Coast trip. And of course, we talked about this game. Boston had to come back from double digits to beat Minnesota in overtime 127-120. So you got to think that kind of leaded into last night's game against Milwaukee. So if you're Boston, you kind of you know what, it's fine. Just like I said, it happens. It's kind of especially in a long season in the NBA, you're gonna have those kind of games where you just don't feel it, or you're exhausted. So I'm not gonna freak out about them losing to Milwaukee, especially after what happened in this game on Wednesday.
On the flip side, for Minnesota, they're on a mini slump in terms of the losing streak right now. They lost a close one at Dallas last week. Of course, they lost another tough one You talk about with the Celtics the other night, but Anthony Edwards is still continues to amaze people. It looks like he's taking that next step. As I said before the season started, the Minnesota Timberwolves got to do some amazing things as a team for him to be considered a top 5 MVP candidate. Well, Minnesota's still holding on to that number 1 spot in the West, and Anthony Edwards is having an amazing season. He's definitely a top 2, top 3 candidate for MVP this year.
Definitely, and I think they're a little. I'm not more about Minnesota right now. They got a little bit of a cushion in front of everybody, but now if they start, if it continues throughout the month, then you can kind of and as your teams like Phoenix and kind of creep up. You're like, and the OKC is right there too. They're creeping up. Like, okay, yeah, you may have a shot here to kind of sneak up on them a little bit. So definitely something to look out for as we go into the All-Star break in about 6 weeks. Going into Tuesday's matchups, I want to talk about this real quick. Toronto and Los Angeles. I saw this game. Free throw attempts were the theme here, or lack thereof, I guess. And in the last 4 minutes of that game, 19 free throw attempts for the Lakers, 0 for the Raptors. That's the largest shutout and free throw attempts over the last 4 minutes of regulation in NBA games since all the way back to 2010. So, actually, the irony is that LeBron was actually there too. He was playing for the Heat at the time. They had 19-0 advantage too against the Jazz. Of course, they lost in overtime, so that was a totally different situation there. But Darko Rakovic, the coach for the Raptors, got fined $25,000 yesterday for his rant. I wish we had the rant on there. It was pure gold, yes. But I wish we had it on here. But yeah, it was. He didn't swear. He went through like almost 2 minutes with continuous. And of course, he's from Serbia, so he has that thick Serbian accent. But look, give him credit. He didn't swear. He kind of, he didn't take a breath. So, look, if the coaching doesn't work for him, he could be a motivational speaker, if nothing else.
Yeah, people don't. When people tell the truth, you can tell what kind of person you are. Can you handle it or can you not? And he, like you said, he ran on that range. Like Scotty Barnes is a potential all-star player. We don't get the calls either. He spoke the truth, and so I appreciate that.
Yeah, you actually say he was an MVP candidate, and I'm like, okay, hold on, coach. I don't want to go back for your guy, but let's slow down on the MVP talk from Mr. Skybar.
Yeah, he was wound up, so you appreciate that. But you know what Richard reminds me of? I forget I forget which team he's assistant coaching this year, but remember David Fizdale when he was head coach of Memphis? Yeah. Vince Carter was on the team. I think it was 2015 when they played the Spurs in the first round of the playoffs. They lost, I believe it was game 3. He was like, take that for data. And there was something about the free throw discrepancies. Yes. I know they're not supposed to criticize the refs in front of the media, but hey, 9 times out of 10, it works. Remember, Memphis won that next game. And of course, I know they lost the series. They ended up losing that series. But when you get your message out there, if you do it right, you strategically do it right, it usually works for you in that next game. Yeah, so hopefully it works in Toronto in their next game. I know they lost by 6 points to the Clippers, but hopefully this will serve them in a good way down the road.
Yeah, they play. They actually have a game tonight, so we'll talk about that in a second. Of course, David Fizdale is now. Remember, he's one of Frank Vogel's top assistants over in Phoenix.
Phoenix, okay, yeah, Phoenix. That's where it was. Yeah, I saw him on the bench early in the year. I know which team, but yeah.
Yeah. So he's with Phoenix.
Take that.
Right, exactly. That's hilarious. Of course, Memphis beat Dallas 120-103. The Knicks beat the Blazers. These are two games I'm talking about. T-Wolves, no trouble with Orlando, and the Kings beat Detroit. No, I'm not repeating myself. Folks. Actually, so yeah. But yeah, that's your schedule for the week. And now we're going to this weekend's games.
Real quick, Lakina, Memphis will be out without point guard John Moran for the rest of the year because of the shoulder surgery. Yeah. Here's the thing for Memphis, unfortunately, I think this was going to be a lost year anyway because they got off to that rough start before John Moran made his return. I know Marcus Smart, RIP Tom Heinsohn, he suffered through some early season injuries as well. But Memphis will, if they're smart, they'll look good for next year. They'll have a top 5, top 10 pick at best. And John, you'll have a healthy John Morant and Marcus Smart. So Memphis, even though I know some of their fans don't want to hear this, but it's going to be a lost year for them. But things could look up for them a great next year. Remember, Steven Adams is out too, so Memphis could be that top 5, top 6 team next year. So if they play this right, the future could be bright for them next year.
Yeah, John Morant tore his labrum against Dallas, and of course he had surgery yesterday. It went well, but unfortunately he's going to be gone for years. I think it's like 8 or 9 months. Like they're saying that the recovery time. So it's such a bummer too, because he was actually looking pretty good when he came back. He stayed out of trouble, didn't say anything. Was a a good citizen. So but you feel bad. But like I said, it was a lost season for Memphis anyway. So but because there was such a big hole before he got back, so yeah, it's going to be tough. But like you said, I think Memphis fans should be a little bit encouraged by the future. So we'll see what happens there. Now we can go into this weekend's games. You got tonight. You got Sacramento and Philadelphia. That should be a fun one on ESPN. I know Philly was going to want to. They've had a rough week, a stretch. So I'm sure they're going to love to get a little bit of kind of get back there against Sacramento. Should be a fun one tonight on ESPN. You got Indiana and Atlanta. Should be a good one there. Take the over on that one.
Yes.
Detroit hosts Houston. Hopefully this isn't, like a new streak, going, that would be pretty bad. Miami and Orlando in the Battle of South Beach. Well, Florida, I guess. Of course, we talked about the Warriors and the Bulls. And, of course, Memphis, speaking of, they host the Clippers tonight.
Finishing out the Friday night schedule tonight for those of you listening back on the replay. Portland will visit Minnesota. Charlotte will visit San Antonio. Victor Wembanyama and crew. The Raptors will take on the Utah Jazz. And the second half of the ESPN Friday night doubleheader tonight will feature New Orleans at Denver.
All right, go ahead to tomorrow's game, Saturday, or today, if you were listening back to the replay. Houston and Boston should be interesting. I'm sure Boston will have, be a little bit of a recover from last night's, pounding by Milwaukee. Washington and Atlanta, Knicks and Grizzlies, and the NBA TV game of the night. You got Golden State and Milwaukee. Speaking of Milwaukee.
And that's the second game in the back-to-back for the Golden State Warriors. Finishing out the Saturday night schedule. Of course, the Bulls and the Spurs will play at 7:30 tomorrow. Of course, you have Orlando at Oklahoma City, New Orleans at Dallas, the Lakers at Utah to take on the Jazz, and they'll finish up your Saturday schedule.
You're going to be interested to see how long the Bulls get, because the weather's pretty nasty here, so hopefully they can get to San Antonio at a pretty reasonable hour. Hopefully they can get there safely at a reasonable time. Sunday's games, you got Indiana and Denver at 2:30. Note the start time there. Charlotte and Miami, Sacramento and Milwaukee at 6.
In the last 2 games for the Sunday night schedule, as you're watching NFL Super Wildcard Weekend, we'll have the Clippers and the Timberwolves at 6 o'clock, and Phoenix will visit Portland at 8 o'clock. So there's your schedule. Get it out, Sid. There's your Sunday schedule in the NBA for Sunday.
Easy, get that. Easy for you to say, Sid. All right, this weekend in the NBA, gonna be a busy weekend in the NBA, so it should be a fun one. Here now with a really quick break, as hour number 1 is in the books. Hour number 2 is coming up. By Second City Sports on Sports in Chicago. We're going to talk some college hoops for a little bit after the break. A wild week, as there were a lot of upsets and no more undefeateds in college hoops. And also too, we'll get right into the meat of the Super Wild Card Weekend, including any potential upsets. We'll see. Keenan McGee, Sidney Brown, Second City Sports on Sports in Chicago. College hoops and NFL coming up right after this.
No, I don't know though. I'm scared. You're so
Do you know that you're in my lane?
No, not at all.
Are you not paying attention? Are you texting?
I was just checking in with my mom. I was telling her that I thought we'd be home by 6.
It's okay. There's enough time. Just pay attention.
I'm not even halfway through my text. There's no way. I'm not even going to look up. My babies are in the car. You have to pay attention. It's just supposed to be a quick text. I'm so sorry.
Hi, I'm Tom Brady, the director of DODEA. September is National Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. The simple act of reaching out and caring for those in our communities is something we all can do. Just being there for someone you care about can be a tremendous first step in getting them access to confidential resources and support that they need. It only takes one person and one small act and 1 minute to make a difference. Let's make a difference.
Many will hear the calling. Few will earn the title. United States Marine. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports on the hashtag Football Friday edition. We're live in the living color right here on Sports Soul Chicago. I'm Sid, that's Lakina. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80, that's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow me, Keena McGee, on the Twitter, X, at Keena McGee, and the IG.
We have less than an hour left of this extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show. If you have any questions or comments or opinions, you can find us at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Don't be scared. The best ones of the comments and questions will be put up on the screen by Lakina. And just a daily reminder, you can watch us not now, but right now or on demand for later. Right now, we are available on Roku TV.
All right, so let's do a little college hoops real quick before we dive right into football. Friday, busy second hour coming up. Illinois, it was back and forth with Michigan State for a little bit last night, but they pulled away, holding them off, 71-68. Coleman Hawkins, who's a funny follow on Twitter, by the way. If you guys, please check out his Twitter. He's just hilarious. But he did, take a break, 15 points, leading the way for the Illini. And it was kind of, like I said, it was back and forth a little bit. I think Michigan was up by like 4 or 5 points early in the second half, but it was good 3-point shooting. Those shots, of course, led by Coleman Hawkins, and the Illini to pull it out late.
Yeah, you love the balanced score that the Illini had last night. As you mentioned, Coleman Hawkins, one of those young veterans. He had 15 points. Matt Dozmak had 15 points as well. Ty Rodgers, who's been on the team the last 3 years, he finally got some extended playing time too, of course, due to the absence of Terrence Shannon Jr. with the suspension. Ty Rodgers chipped in with 15 points as well. 12 points coming off the Illini bench. That was very impressive as well, Lakina. But the one thing that concerned me, we talked about this last week, they got out-rebounded by double digits last Friday around this time, like at Purdue, and that's one of the reasons why they lost. Even though the Illini were -3 in the rebounding department last night, you could tell that they were much more attentive on the defensive end. Yes, Michigan made their run. Yes, Tyson Walker had 17 points, and Michigan did get hot late with their shooting, but the Illini were very, very well detailed. They played much better, in my opinion, defensively last night.
Yeah, really a couple of big steals there for the Illini as they held off Michigan State. So, it'll be interesting to see, Yeah, I know that Terrence Shannon, Jr. I think put out an injunction. We'll see if any illegal leave any that it comes to fruition there. So he wants to go back to playing and such. So yeah, that gets a little bit more complicated. So we won't talk about that. But yeah, I mean Illinois, they kind of held it together a little bit. I know they had the loss against Purdue, so we'll see how they do the rest of the Big Ten season. It doesn't get any easier for them, but so we'll talk about that in a second. Now, going with the theme here of upsets. Santa Clara upset Gonzaga, holding them off 77-76 with their first win against Gonzaga. Talking about the Broncos since you get all the way back to 2011 was the last time they beat Gonzaga. With a Hall of Famer in the house, who's their famous alum, Sid, from Santa Clara?
Ooh, I'm not using Google, folks. So this is live and I'm guessing on the fly. Can you give me a clue? One small clue.
Okay. He was a player and a coach in the NBA.
Oh, he was a player and a coach in the NBA. Okay, so it's not who I thought it was.
Canadian? Dark hair.
I'm gonna say it anyway, even though I'll be wrong. Steve Nash?
You got it. Ding, 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 ding.
Yes!
Remember he was part of the 93 Santa Clara team that upset Damon Stoudemire and the Arizona squad back in 93 in the NCAA tournament. But yeah, he was in the house. I think they were doing like a ring of honor. I think they were either retired jerseys or a ring of honor or something like that for him over there. So yeah, they put on it. It was nice that they put on a show for him. I know he beat Gonzaga a couple of times. Gonzaga's kind of been in free for all. I mean, this is probably, I don't want to say this is the worst team Mark Few's had, but he has a lot of the top recruits like he's had in recent years, and it looks like the West Coast Conference is starting to kind of catch up to him a little bit.
Yeah, I know we'll talk about this in college football coming up with all the coaching changes there. But we talked about it for the last couple of years of college basketball, Lakina. Now we'll leave the NIL aspect out of this, but with the so many athletes entering the transfer portal, many of these coaches in these big time schools, do not have the monopoly on the talent like you used to way back when. So we're starting to see the effects of it now, and you're going to continue to see it for the years to come.
Yeah, St. Mary's, like they're the class of that league this year. They had no trouble with Portland, Washington beat Arizona State. Let's see here, the other ones of note here. I'm talking about the ones from because Wednesday was even weirder. UCLA beat Utah. Utah beat UCLA. UCLA has not had a good year this year, so yeah, could be a long year for Mick Cronin. James Madison, they got back on track by being South Alabama. Now, Wednesday was even weirder. I call it a weird Wednesday for a reason. UConn, no trouble with Xavier. They held them off. They beat them by 5. But Kansas lose to UCF. Mississippi State beat Tennessee. USC, no weirdness here. They beat NC State. Their 6th straight year win against NC State. TCU, a mild upset, not really a big upset, but a mild one against Oklahoma. Porter Moser, his squad. Butler with their biggest win in a while. They beat Marquette. Memphis needed overtime, but they avoid the upset bug. They beat UT San Antonio.
Shout out Penny Hardaway.
Wisconsin, same thing. They were to hold off Ohio State. Virginia Tech, they beat Clemson. So yeah, so it was definitely a weird week in college, which usually there's something that happens this time of year. I know Houston lost to Iowa State. Yeah, they were the last undefeated team, so they're no longer the undefeated team. So they got their first loss to Iowa State, and Nebraska with their nice big win. Easily their best win in the Fred Hoiberg era. Easy for me to say. They had no trouble. They just pound Purdue 88-72. Kasai Tominaga. If you have not heard of this guy's name, he is hilarious. He's fun. He's always has a lot of energy. He led the way for the Cornhuskers with 19 points. He's one of the reasons why Nebraska is kind of where they are right now, and perhaps on the cusp of going back to the tournament. And a really big win for them against Purdue.
Yeah, the Fred Hoiberg, we talked about him last week as they had a big road game at Wisconsin. They didn't show up there. Wisconsin were clearly the better team, but those kids got that bad loss out of their system real quick. As you mentioned, they beat the number 1 team, not just in the Big Ten, but perhaps the number 1 team in the country. So, again, the Cornhuskers and Fred Hoiberg and crew keep this up. We shall see. Also, too, I want to give TCU some credit, the Horned Frogs. We talked about them losing a close one to Kansas on the road last Saturday. They got a big win against Porter Moser's number 9 ranked Oklahoma Sooners at home.
Yeah, nice win for them, and hopefully, it's kind of like sort of one of those things where, like I said, I mean, like we're kind of we're getting into the meat of conference play right now. There's no easy wins, for a lot of these teams. I know Boise State, they upset Colorado State, hoping to freshen up their resume. So this is gonna be like one of those things where it's really gonna be like kind of like a slugfest to see like who can kind of get those last bubble spots. I mean, Baylor, they're starting to, after that getting slaughtered by Michigan State on the road. They've won, I think, like about 8 in a row since. So, they beat BYU. Kind of a little welcome to the Big 12, I guess, for BYU. Duke, no trouble with Pitt. Also, UK, Kentucky, no trouble with Mizzou. So, So there were actually some teams that did avoid the upset this week in college hoops.
Okay. Now let's go into the schedule for this weekend for college basketball. We won't go through all of them. We'll just go through some of the important games. Tonight, Friday, DePaul's at Villanova. That's at 7:30 p.m. local time on FS1. I won't let you yell about DePaul. We won't let you blow your blood vessel there. At 8:30 p.m. on Big Ten Network, we'll have Nebraska. Fred Hoiberg and crew, they'll visit Iowa. Hopefully the fans will be safe there because of this winter weather storm there. So hopefully they can get that game in tonight. And, of course, Boise State versus Nevada, that's at 9:30 p.m. on FS1.
Should be a fun one. Everybody knows two teams, some of the top teams in the Mountain West Conference. Now, tomorrow, some good ones here. You got Tennessee and Georgia, Tom Crean and the gang. That'll be on ESPN2 at 11. Syracuse, they have a new regime there as they face North Carolina. North Carolina, trying to get to that top 5 on ESPN. That's also at 11 a.m. Northwestern will have a tough one at the Kohl Center against Wisconsin.
I'll be looking forward to this game.
That should be interesting. Both teams can shoot the three pretty well. Louisville, they host NC State on the CW network, your WGN here in Chicago. Weather could be a factor with some of these games. So this is sort of like, weather permitting, I guess. Seton Hall and Butler on FS1 at 11. Creighton meets St. John's. They host St. John's on Fox. Should be a good one there. Rick Pitino and his crew, he got his guys playing very well in his first year back at the Big East. Big test there in Omaha against Creighton. Ole Miss coming out their first loss of the season. They face Jerry Stackhouse and his Vanderbilt squad. Okay, 1 o'clock on. I'm a little surprised this isn't the national television, but I digress. Both teams coming off tough losses. Oklahoma and Kansas, they face each other on the Big 12 ESPN Plus streaming network.
Yeah, that should be on mainstream TV, not streaming. Oh boy, but I digress. Weird. Look, you do weird things sometimes. Kentucky and Texas A&M on ESPN. Good one here in the Mountain West. You got New Mexico hosting San Diego State on CBS at 1 o'clock. So that should be a fun one there. UIC, they have a nice season so far. Also Bradley as well in the Missouri Valley. Xavier and Providence at 1 o'clock on FS1. You see any games that kind of pique your interest in? Number 2, Houston visiting TCU. That's at 5 o'clock tomorrow, Saturday on ESPN. That should be a interesting one. LSU will visit number 16 Auburn. And of course, for Sunday, if I can get it up on my screen here, a couple of games that interest me on Sunday. Number 13 Memphis will visit Wichita State. That's at noon on Sunday on ESPN2. Hopefully, Penny Hardaway and crew good team. They're winning ways. And of course, the Fighting Illini, ranked number 10, they'll host the 10-6 Maryland Terrapins down in Champaign. That's on Sunday at 1 o'clock on Big Ten Network.
Yeah, Maryland's gonna be interesting with Maryland, how they do. Yeah, that's gonna be could be a track game for them, but we'll see what happens there. USC and Colorado going back to tomorrow night's games, Saturday 9 o'clock on ESPN2. And I think you cover pretty much all the main games, Sid. Like there's so much college. Like I said, weather could be a factor with some of these games out on the East Coast. So keep your eye out on your local affiliates there for that. That's pretty much kind of covers it all. So we got pretty much Illinois State, they meet Valparaiso on Sunday. Murray State and they host Northern Iowa. A little love there for the Missouri Valley, I should say. And Washington and UCLA at the Pac-12 network. UCLA just not having a good season, McCronin. So he might be on the hot seat there in Los Angeles. So
we'll some of those media members are getting tired of his act too, but we'll see what happens with that. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, the Friday edition. We're live in the living color. Sid McKinney here with you on Sports Zone Chicago. Let's now talk some college football. Of course, the Alabama Crimson Tide made their move quickly after Nick Saban retired earlier this week. Kalen DeBoer, the former head coach of the Washington Huskies, who lost earlier this week to the Michigan Wolverines in the national championship game, he is now their new head coach.
Yeah, I just saw that. I'm kind of like, okay, wow, yeah. I just saw Adam Wittenberg just tweeted. I'm like, wow, okay, they're going. Oh, okay, so yeah, that's a little interesting there. I know we'll talk to our buddy Christine Manika about this because of course he played at at Sioux Falls, the University of Sioux Falls, was in an IA squad, won a national championship there in the mid '90s, won a couple national championships in an IA championship as a head coach. Of course, went to Washington. I mean, okay, I guess. I mean, we know he can recruit. So that's not going to be a problem. But yeah, you went from the Pac-12 all the way to the SEC, and now you're following a legend. Nick Saban. We'll talk more about him in a second. But yeah, interesting, I guess.
I thought Lane Kiffin would get a consideration, but I guess not.
Well, no. Here's the thing. Here kind of the timeline. As soon as that news came out, Lane Kiffin already said he wasn't interested. There was supposed to report that Dan Lane was on his way to Tuscaloosa. That wasn't true. He's not interested. Steve Sarkisian, who was another one of Saban's top assistants. A lot of people thought that he was going to go back there. Nope. He says I'm staying in Texas. There was another guy's name. Darn it. There was Mike Norvell. Mike Norvell, his name was being floated around as well. He said, not only am I not going, I got a new contract assistant, a new bump up his salary for Florida State. So yeah, I mean,
here's the thing. Congrats to Kalen DeBoer for getting that job. But here's the thing with those names you just mentioned. You don't want to be the guy that's replacing a legend because all that pressure is going to be on you to trying to live up to that standard of that previous head coach, especially with a big legendary name like Nick Saban. Here's the thing about Alabama too. As we talked about earlier with college basketball, especially with the transfer portal, you cannot, you don't have the control of monopolizing all that talent anymore because kids can jump and go wherever they want, wherever they please, anytime they want to. And especially with Alabama being the SEC, Oklahoma and Texas are joining you guys now, so you're going to have tougher competition. And that's one of the reasons why Nick Saban retired. We talked about with Coach K, Mike Krzyzewski from Duke, and Roy Williams from North Carolina. Those two guys retired before the start of last season college basketball too. The times have changed. The rules have changed. We're in this player empowerment movement in college sports, whether you like it or not. And so it is out with the old and in with the new.
Yeah, I mean, look, you look at Saban, 6 national championships, 13 SEC titles, 9 conference titles, and he said in an interview with Reese Davis a couple of days ago when the news came out, he said, look, but I also think the grind. He said, look, he's 74 years old. The grind was getting too much for him. Traveling. People forget that college, football coaches, especially with college football, college hoops, and those. You probably even put some of the other sports in there as well. It's a year-long job.
You got to recruit.
You got to go. All over to the country to recruit. You got to make sure you got your staff is ready and all that. You got to make sure the players are doing what they're supposed to do. So yeah, it's a grind. And to save his credit, it was becoming too much for him. So that's one of the reasons why he said he retired. Now, of course, Kalen DeBoer, we got to follow a legend, so that might be interesting too. Now, if you're Washington, you're thinking, okay, wait, what? Where are we going? But look, they got a lot of their guys are leaving. Of course, Penix is graduating. Romain DeBose, he's going to the NFL. A couple other guys as well. So if you're DeBoer, I think you want to get out. Like the Mullen Kenny was good. So I mean, we'll see.
Yeah, you saw the writing on the wall too.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, because let's talk about that. Well, we'll talk about more about the national championship game when Christine comes on in a little bit. But that game, you can kind of tell that you're going to the Big Ten. Now I'm talking about Washington. You saw how Michael Penix Jr. looked after that game. He was bruised and battered, and yeah, that's just a taste of what you're gonna get coming up. So yeah, that's I kind of understand why Canada Board decided to bolt.
You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. City Lakina here with you as we dig into our hashtag Football Friday discussion. Of course, now tomorrow, Saturday, we'll start Super NFL Wildcard Weekend. 2 games on Saturday, 3 games on Sunday. Of course, 1 game on MLK Day as the Philadelphia Eagles will travel to Tampa Bay to take on the Buccaneers. Lakina, looking at the slate here, like I said, we'll get into more deeper with Christine after the break. But do you see any potential upsets as we get started with Super Wildcard Weekend? Because I see at least 2.
Well, I mean, let's see. Weather will be a factor in some of these games. I know KC and Miami, there are people say that might end up being the coldest wild card game to ever be played. I don't know about that. It'll definitely be up there.
Minnesota and Seattle.
Because remember that they were in transition. Remember Minnesota, they remember, they were waiting for their stadium to be built, so they had to play their games outdoors. 10-9, I think was the final score in that game. So Seattle was able to hold them off. That could be a factor there. Weather could be a factor there. Would Houston being Cleveland would be an upset? Not really. Steelers beating the Bills, maybe? No, not really. Rams, you got the Rams, with Matt Stafford's first game, back in Detroit. That's going to be an interesting one there. Would the Bucks beating the Eagles be an upset? Not really. Look, if you want to go by rankings, say that if a road team pulls off an upset, I don't think we consider at this point. I don't think any of these games would be considered upsets. I just don't see it.
I think the obvious choice would be the Rams at the Lions because the Rams have a good running game with Kyron Williams, and the Rams also have 2 rookie tackles next to Aaron Donald that had tremendous years. They can provide constant pressure on the quarterback. Even though Jared Goff has played well at home, the QB for the Lions, he's prone to at least 2 turnovers a game. So we'll see what happens with that. The Buccaneers beating the Eagles, even though the Eagles are technically favored, like you said, that would not be an upset given the way Philly's played over the last month or so. I think that Steelers-Bills game, that would be an upset if the Steelers win, only because Mike Tomlin has played 3 different quarterbacks this year. Let's be honest here. Mason Rudolph doesn't spell confidence in you if you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. Yes, they got the win on the road at Baltimore last week. Baltimore didn't play anybody, so you really can't measure anything off of that performance. So I think the Steelers would be the second most likely upset. But I think the most likely upset would be on paper Miami at Kansas City because let's be honest here, Miami can run the ball, but they're a finesse team. They're not a physical team, especially given the weather conditions there in Kansas City for tomorrow. That Miami defense, especially now without Bradley Chubb, they're going to have to really step up and have a heroic performance. Even though Kansas City struggled this year on offense, Miami's going to have to play above their heads, in my opinion, defensively to pull off that upset.
Well, and the thing is that, I'll talk more about this when we do our picks with Christina, with Christine coming up in a little bit. But Dallas and Green Bay, look, I think Green Bay has a shot to win this game. I'm not going to say we're going to beat Dallas, but I think they got a shot here because they're not good against the run. I'm talking about Dallas's defense. So if you saw what happened with against the Bears last week. Aaron Jones was one of the reasons why. Like I said, that game should have been a blowout. If Aaron Jones get the running game going and perhaps keep Dak and his guys off the field, it's going to be wear that Dallas defense out. It's going to be a long day for the Cowboys, and they got a shot if they can kind of get the run game going early and just run against their throat and just go zone in and just expose that run defense of Dallas, which are probably their only weakness on that defensive side.
And if you're a Dallas Cowboys fan, Stephon Gilmore, their defensive back, he suffered an injury last week at Washington. He's listed, I believe, as questionable, but he's expected to play on Sunday. So, as you mentioned, with their running game for Green Bay, it's going to be key for Dallas to stop because if they don't stop it, Jordan Love can have a big day.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think our girl is here. Let's introduce her real quick before we go to break. She's one of our favorites, of course. You know what? She's our girl, your girl, Miss from KXRB, Miss Christine Manika. What's up, Christine?
Hey.
Hello, hello. How are you?
We're doing
Good.
great. How about yourself?
Nasty weather, but how about yourself?
I know we're staying warm here too.
Yeah, definitely staying in weather, no doubt, if you can. Real quick before we go to break, what is kind of like your you see any upsets there for Sunday Super Wild Card Weekend games?
I see the Bucks because why not? The Eagles are they're down and out with Brown going down last week. Hurts, he's playing pretty much hurt for the most part with his hand at the moment. So I say why not? Crazier things that it can happen, and let's face it, the Eagles haven't been the best this year.
I see. For those of you listening back on our Replay Award Media podcast, Christine the Queen is wearing the Fighting Illini shirt. I see. Did you catch any of the basketball game last night as they beat Michigan State?
No, I didn't. I was in bed and I had a volleyball game going on. So no, I did not.
Well, that's okay.
Well, the basketball team is looking great this year, 12-3, and so I know they're missing Terrence Shannon Jr.
I noticed that, yeah.
Due to obvious reasons. But Brad Underwood, as I said before, Lakina, before the season started, that seed is getting a little bit hot because they had early X's in the tournament over the last 2-3 years. So. Despite the absence of Terrence Shannon Jr., they played well this year. I know they host Maryland on Sunday down there in Champaign. So let's see if the final line they can keep it going.
Should be. We'll be interested to see what happens there. Now we're going to take a really quick break. We're going to stretch a little bit, and of course we'll do our predictions for Super Wildcard Weekend. And Christine, your guy Kalen DeBoer looks like he's going to be the new coach at Alabama. So
I saw that.
Yeah, we're going to talk more about that and all the other coaching carousel. I guess a couple of legends, other legends have decided to call it quits with their respective teams. So Lakina McGee, Cindy Brown, our girl KXRB's Christine Manika. Second City Sports on Sports on Chicago. We'll have more coming up right after this.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I need for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too.
These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
And I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov, a public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on the hashtag Football Friday edition. This is our last break of the show for today. You're live and in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakina. That's Christine. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80.
You follow by Keena McGee on the Twitter, X, and Kids coming in IG.
This is our last segment of the show for today and for the week. So make those questions or comments great. If you have any last-second questions or comments or opinions, you can always find us at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you.
Like our buddy Brandon Schutz. What's up, Brandon? It's been a while since you've joined us. Good to see you back with us today. And okay, folks, let's go to Super Wildcard Weekend. I'm going to be saying that a lot. I wish we had sound effects here, but yeah. First game on the docket. This will be on NBC at 3:30. You got Cleveland and Houston. Cleveland's actually a 2-point road favorite. Sid, you start this one.
Yeah, on my cheat sheet, Cleveland's favored by 1.5, but I digress. The Texans have a strong defense led by first-year head coach D'Amico Ryans. Of course, C.J. Stroud, the rookie quarterback, has been playing out of his mind this year. You saw him had a great performance last Saturday night in that must-win game at Indianapolis. They have a strong running game with Devin Singletary. And on the flip side for Cleveland, Joe Flacco is having an amazing half of a season at his age. Of course, they have a strong running game as well. I think it's going to come down to the running game for both of these teams, and it's also going to come down to which defense creates the most turnovers. Whoever protects the ball the most and whoever gets the best pressure on these two quarterbacks will win the game. I'm going to step out here a little bit. I'm going to take Houston by 3.
This is going to be a really good game. I'm going with, this is a tough one, but I'm going to go with the Browns. I love what sort of a life Joe Flacco has brought to the team. I never thought I would say I'd be picking the Browns in Super Wild Card Weekend, all things considered. But I do respect what the Texans has done with D'Amico Ryan and with C.J. Stroud especially. There's no doubt in my mind that he's going to get the Rookie of the Year. No doubt in my mind. But this is going to be a really good game. There's a reason why Vegas is saying this is pretty much a pick 'em. So I'm going with the Browns.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Sid here. I'm gonna say Houston because of the simple fact that Cleveland's a totally different team on the road than they are at home. If this was at home, I probably would be with you, Christine, and pick Cleveland, but they're a totally different, dynamic. I mean, I know that place in Houston is going to be rocking tomorrow, so this is going to be their first playoff game and a home game in a while. I think, C.J. Stroud, look, he's played in big games before, so he's not going to be, too nervous by the bright lights and stuff, the stage to themselves. So, yeah, I think it'll be a close one, but I think it's definitely going to be Houston. I think, they're going to go to the next round. All right, now this game will be this next game is tomorrow night's nightcap here. This will be exclusively streamed on Peacock. I don't know why people didn't know that, but this is going to be the game. It's going to be streamed exclusively on Peacock. Miami and KC should be going to be very cold. -24 wind chills are saying by the start of the game. Christine, you start this one for us.
It's going to be pretty cold out there, that's for sure. The Dolphins and Kansas City, they've both had their ups and downs this season. More recently, I'd say the Dolphins have, especially when it comes to injuries. I thought for sure, especially when Josh Allen was just slinging those interceptions left and right and those turnovers, I thought, oh my God, the Dolphins are going to do it and beat the Bills and clinch it. But they didn't. So I was disappointed in that pick for myself. When it comes to this game, I think the Chiefs, they're going to hold on as long as they can, certainly when it comes to the postseason run. And when it comes to the weather conditions, obviously when you compare the two teams, Kansas City, they're used to it. They're used to playing in these types of conditions and not like the Dolphins are. So because of that factor, and it is a home game, I'm going to go with Kansas City.
Kansas City's favored by 4 points as of this live broadcast. As I talked about before the break, the Dolphins' defense will be minus Bradley Chubb, who suffered a torn ACL a couple weeks ago. I know Jalen Waddle, the other star wide receiver opposite Tyreek Hill, he suffered an injury right now. Raheem Mostert's on the injury report today. So the Miami Dolphins running game has been great statistically all year long. But as Christine's mentioned, Kansas City, they're used to these elements. Miami is not. Kansas City is going to have to hold on to the ball. They led the league in drop passes this year. Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift or no Taylor Swift, he's having a hit and miss year. Patrick Mahomes, we've seen his frustrations at various points this year. I want to see Chiefs offensive coordinator Matt Nagy. What can he do for a quote-unquote encore to get this Chiefs offense back on track? I think it's going to be an ugly, close game. I have Kansas City by 3.
Yeah, I would pick Kansas City. Because I think not just but because remember, Tua is from Hawaii. He played at Alabama, and it didn't get that cold down there in Tuscaloosa. So it might be if the Chiefs catch the ball. I think they might. I'm not gonna say they're gonna blow them out, but I feel like this could be one of those things where I still don't trust KC. I don't think they're gonna go far, but I think they will win this game just because Miami's is too banged up. It's gonna be so freezing cold and. Yeah, it is just going to be terrible conditions for them. So, yeah, I'm picking the Chiefs, but I think they'll pull away late in that game. Sunday on CBS at noon, you got the Steelers and Buffalo. I'll start this one. Buffalo has kind of had to grind out the last few weeks, kind of get in, not only get in the playoffs, but also win the division, being Miami. The Steelers, I know, look, Mike Tomlin, he's done a great job of avoiding, another finishing below 500 again, another winning season for him. Mason Rudolph, I don't no. I like Mason Rudolph. I like the stuff that he's done, but I just don't see it, especially that offense. If you're Buffalo, take advantage of that offense, lack of offensive production, I should say, if you're Buffalo. If Josh Allen can avoid those interceptions that he tends to do sometimes, I think they should win this game, pretty easily. I'm picking Buffalo.
Well, Akina, especially without TJ Watt being in the game either for the Steelers, that's going to be another big factor that the Bills have to take advantage of. So as long as they can avoid having the turnovers and actually play the game that they know how to, I think the Bills are going to take this one too. And again, huge props to Mike Tomlin, what you said, but I think the Steelers, they're not going to be able to do much this postseason.
Message to Buffalo Bills head coach Sean McDermott. Run the ball with James Cook. He should have way more carries than your quarterback. Thank you. All right, now back to our picks. The Buffalo Bills have a strong running game, especially led by James Cook. He's been hot for them over the last month or so. We talked about Josh Allen. Christine mentioned it as well. Sometimes he does have the prone for those turnovers, but for Pittsburgh, they're running the ball with Jalen Warren and Najee Harris will give that Pittsburgh offense any chance of an upset. As you mentioned, Christine, without TJ Watt on the other side of the ball, I think it's going to be tougher. And that's why I say Buffalo's running game is going to be key here. And they can keep that Pittsburgh Steelers defense on his heels, they'll win this ball game. Who would have thunk it over the month ago that Buffalo would clinch the AFC East division the way they did? And should they win this game on Sunday, they could potentially host the Kansas City Chiefs next week in Buffalo. Who would have thought that over a month ago? So that's why we love the NFL. But for this game, I'm going with Buffalo. And so this live broadcast, they're favored by 9.5 points at home.
All right. Interesting. Okay, the second game, this will be on CBS at 3:30 Chicago time. The Cowboys.
Who's your pick, Lakina?
Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers. Now, like I said before, it's going to be interesting because if you're the Packers, try to get the run game going. Get Aaron Jones. If A.J. Dillon's feeling a little bit better, get them going, keep dacking them off the field. I'm picking the Cowboys, but if the Packers do that, they can pull off the upset here. So yes, I am picking Dallas, but I'm going to keep an asterisk there in case the Packers, follow what I think they're going to do and try to use that run game to kind of wear out that Dallas defense.
I'm going to go with the Cowboys too, but I wouldn't go to sleep on the Packers, especially when they're on their game. And this is a way different Packers team than what we saw at the beginning of the season. And I think it would be an even more explosive game for them if they have Christian Watson back out on the field. He's been dealing with I think it's a hamstring or whatever he's been dealing with the last couple of weeks that's been keeping him off the field. So once they get him back going in the swing, then that's going to be another big target for Jordan Love to hit too. But for now, I am going to pick the Cowboys, and hopefully this is a game that can solidify their place in the postseason.
We talk about Green Bay's running game with Aaron Jones. I want to talk about the running game with Tony Pollard and the Dallas Cowboys. You saw them get back on track as they won that NFC East in the last regular season game in Washington last week. We all know that the Dallas Cowboys offense, which did come alive in that second half last week, they play different at home than they do on the road. They average close to 40 points at home. But I think it's surprisingly it's going to be a shootout. Jordan Love has grown ever since the second half of the season. He's playing with more confidence. You saw that last week against the Bears. We'll talk about the Bears in a second. But, now with Aaron Jones getting going, that makes Jordan Love that much more dangerous. As I talked about with the Stephon Gilmore injury in that Dallas secondary, it's going to be a tough day for that Cowboys secondary if Jordan Love gets going. And Micah Parsons, their stud defensive ends, he's going to see some double teams with that Packers offensive line. So the Cowboys do have their work cut out for them. If they create 2 turnovers or more, I think they'll win this ball game. I think it's going to be a kind of a shootout, a 31-27, 31-28 type game. I'm going with Dallas at home. And Dallas is favored by 7 points.
Look, these two teams have played, really slug it out, in the games in the playoffs. So I would be surprised.
2016, anyone?
Yeah, exactly. So I wouldn't be surprised. Don't be surprised if we see one again on Sunday. Now the nightcapper on Sunday. It's been the count keeps changing. It's been over almost 26,000 days since these two teams will face each other. They'll face each other for the first time in the playoffs. You got the Rams and the Lions. Of course, Matt Stafford back, in Detroit playing there for the first time. Going to be very interesting to see. You got they're very experienced Rams. I know there have been some guys that have been out, but they're still very experienced, very polished. Detroit, a lot of these guys are facing each other, making their debuts in the playoffs for the first time. Easy for me to say. But Christine, you start this one for us, please.
Yeah, just a lot of nostalgia with this game. And I even forgot to mention with the Dallas Packers game, Mike McCarthy's facing his old team for the first time in a while, too. So there's just a lot of different moments happening during the postseason. When it comes to the Rams and the Lions, you have Jared Goff facing his old team, and then you have Matthew Stafford on the other side. And I'm sure it's going to be a very emotional moment for both of these great quarterbacks to start off. But then once the lights go on, it's game time. And I'm putting my eggs in the Lions basket because they have it this year. I think it's their time now. The Rams, they've been looking great the last couple of weeks. That wasn't always the case at the start of the season. They did look really shaky. They didn't have Cooper Kupp to start because he was really injured. He was not really playing his best. And then you also had Aaron Darnold. He was also not playing his best football at one point too, but now they're coming back into their own. So this is a really good Cinderella story, I think. Good Hollywood story for the Rams, actually. And then you got the Lions, who probably should have had the shot last year, but now they're finally getting their chance in the sun this time around. So I think given the home game situation and just the whole storyline coming together between both of these teams, I'm going to go with the Lions.
Couple of factors here. Of course, the running games for both of these teams, Kyren Williams for the Rams, and of course, on the flip side for Detroit, Jahmyr Gibbs, their first-round pick, and of course, former Chicago Bear David Montgomery. But I think the Lions will have a setback offensively because tight end Sam Laporta, their rookie tight end, he got injured last week in that meaningless game against Minnesota. He's going to be out of action for this Sunday. But we talked about their Rams front four, Lakina, earlier. I know Aaron Donald's not the same player he was a couple years ago, but he's still very damn good. But their Rams secondary, even though they are impressive at times, they occasionally give up the big play. And will Jared Goff take advantage of that? I think so. On the flip side for the Lions, their defense, Aiden Hutchinson leads that bunch, but their Detroit Lions secondary, which has been a little bit maligned this year, I think it's going to come down to how many big plays these secondaries gives up. And if the Rams, which I think they will give up a couple of big plays, can Detroit take advantage of them? I think so, even without Sam Laporta. Even though the Rams, you can pick them logically to win this game. I'm going to stick my neck out there and go with Detroit. Detroit, they are favored by 3 points even at home. This will be the first playoff game ever since that building opened up in 2002.
Yeah, you know that that building's going to be rocking. So I'm sure they've been amped up for this game for this type of playoff atmosphere for years now. And because of, like you just said, their defense is like who will make the big play? I mean, look, both secondaries are not really anything to write home about. So it's really going to be like which secondary can avoid giving up those big plays or giving up too many. I guess like that would be probably as the case may be. So not having Laporta out there, that's going to be a big, that might be a big factor here. We know Kyler Willis could run the ball for the Rams. Of course, Cooper Kupp, of course, he's playing better as well. I'll pick Detroit, but again, would I be surprised if the Rams pull it off and it would be an upset? No, I don't think it would be an upset, nor would I be surprised if the Rams pull it off. But, like I said, I think the Lions, because they're at home, that place is going to be rocking down there in Detroit, just outside Detroit. And it could be like one of the games of the weekends here in Super Wildcard Weekend. As we go into the game for MLK Day, the bruised and battered and beaten Philadelphia Eagles, they face a Tampa team that's kind of struggling, but they may have a shot here because I think Tampa, you got on the other unaffiliated side, you got AJ Brown's out, Devontae Smith, he's banged up. You got the secondary is all banged up. You got the front seven of defense is banged up. You got the O-line's a little bit is banged up. You got Jalen Hurts, who hasn't passed the ball like once since he injured his finger last week against the Giants. I'm gonna go out on a limb here. I might regret this, like Monday when we come back, Sid. But I'm picking Tampa. I think Mike Evans can definitely have a big game against that secondary for the Eagles. I know Darius Slay is gonna try and play, but it's gonna be weird how he looks because he hasn't played in like 5 or 6 weeks. Get the run game going if you're Tampa, and their defense it's actually okay. It's not like the Tampa teams from when with Brady and them a couple of years ago, but they got good some names out there. I think they might make some big plays. And I'm picking Tampa. I'm stepping out picking Tampa. This will be on ESPN at 7:15.
Yeah, I'm picking Tampa with you. It's the same thing I said before we went into the break. If you wanted to dominate the Eagles, this is the time to do it. They're banged up. They haven't been playing great all season. I've been calling it ugly winning, and they haven't been looking great this year. And this is the time to take advantage of that. And again, the Bucs, they haven't been looking all great or perfect, but you know what? This is kind of like another Cinderella story, I think, in the making. So why not? Go Tampa.
Of course, Christine's favorite fantasy football quarterback, the former fantasy football quarterback, Baker Mayfield. I think he's dealing with a little ankle injury from last week in that ugly win over Tampa.
Yeah.
Of course, we talked about it last week. I'll talk about it again. Tampa Bay has to put up points. I'm talking about touchdowns here. Like you said, Lakina, Mike Evans is going to be key here. Of course, Rashard White, the Tampa Bay definitely needs to get that running game going. So now this is, as Christine says, this is the perfect time to take advantage of a wounded animal. Sometimes wounded animals are dangerous, but if you're Tampa, you got to put up touchdowns here. You can't get away with that crap you did last week at Carolina, just putting up field goals. That's not going to get it done. So I'm going with Tampa here too, making a clean sweep. Philadelphia is currently favored by 3.
Yeah, this game will be broadcast on ABC and ESPN Plus as well. So Could be an ugly one down there in Tampa. 6'3", 9'6", I guess, maybe. I don't know, but we'll see. I mean, look, we'll see if Tampa can pull it out. But yeah, like you said, Christine, this is the time to take advantage of that.
Mm-hmm.
So should be a very entertaining Super Wild Card weekend.
You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago on the hashtag Football Friday edition. I'm Sid. That's Lakina. That's Christine. All right, Christine, the Bears finished the 2023 campaign with 7 wins and 10 losses, losing to the Green Bay Packers on the last day of the season, 17-9. Matt Eberflus will return as Bears head coach, but Luke Getsy, the offensive coordinator, out of there. The rest of that coaching staff, bye-bye. Here's your pink slip and link card. So, Christine, what do you expect from the Bears this offseason? Because we got a little bit over 3.5 months before the NFL draft at the end of April 24th to be exact. What do you expect from the Bears this offseason? What are your early predictions?
Well, they got 75% of it right, at least, just to get rid of the staff. I mean, in a perspective of a business standpoint, you don't want to see a coach get fired or a coordinator get fired. No, you never want to cheer for that, but you want to cheer for a change. You want to cheer for a different direction, and you want to cheer for progress. And with the Bears, they have an interesting history of retaining coaches with a losing record and quickly saying goodbye to coaches with a winning record. We saw that with Lovie Smith, and we even saw that with Matt Nagy. So with Eberflus, I'm sure that there was lots of conversations, including, hey, if you don't get it done next year, then you're going to go. I'm sure that conversation was in there somewhere. And I would be, if I was one of the Bears recruiters right now, I would really be feeling the pressure, because from now all the way up until that NFL Combine and the draft day, you are hunkering down on every single person in the Combine, in the draft, studying every single person, their movements, their statistics, where they're from, their favorite food, even, just to see the mechanics of how these young guys work and how you can potentially convince them to come to Chicago, especially if you are a Bo Nixon or a Caleb Williams, anything along those lines. And if I were the Bears right now, everyone's talking about, oh, what would they do to give away the number 1 pick? Out of any draft class within the recent years, this is the time, in my opinion, to keep that number 1 pick, just because this is a really good draft class. And the Bears have all the cards right now to get a really good quarterback in their system, or even potentially another weapon for offense or potentially for defense. I really shouldn't say it like that, but I don't think you don't really need a defensive player at this time, just because by the end of this season, the defense was number 1. They were at the top, and that's all thanks to the addition of Montez Sweat. So I think the defense is in a good place right now. Now you have to think about, what can I do for the offense? And I would probably draft a quarterback and put a little bit more pressure on Fields if you want to keep Fields. If you do draft a quarterback and you decide to put Fields on the back burner, that automatically opens up the cap space. And that means you have more opportunities to get different players on your roster to potentially help the new quarterback, or vice versa. So there's a lot of different options that the Bears can go about this. But my big thing is that I really want them to keep that number 1 pick, because it's very valuable this year.
Would you trade? Also, the Bears have that number 9 pick in the first round. So would you trade that number 9 pick to get multiple picks? Because as of right now, the Bears have 6 draft picks overall, and they do not have a second round pick. I think they have a third round, a couple fourth rounders, and a couple other picks in the later round. So you would keep that number 1 pick and trade that number 9 pick to get multiple picks for this year and perhaps next year?
I would do that. I would trade the number 9 pick over trading the number 1 pick, because in my mind, if I was going to trade the number 1 pick, you would have to offer me like a Tyreek Hill or even a Travis Kelce. I know Travis Kelce, he's pushing 35 years old, but still, he's one of the best tight ends in the league, still giving up those big numbers. So that's what I'm talking about. You got to give me someone massive if I want to give up my first pick, someone really worth it to push it to that far. But yeah, I would be willing to give up the number 9 pick for a second rounder for sure.
Now, with the number 1 pick, would you select Caleb Williams or would you select Marvin Harrison Jr.?
Oh, okay. See, with Marvin Harrison Jr., that was big when he announced that he was going for the draft. And with Caleb Williams too, it's always I don't know if I can say this, it's always a crapshoot in the draft, right? Because you don't know who's going to work in the NFL. College football is so different nowadays than what the NFL is. It's a completely different game. And we've seen that time and time again with quarterbacks. I saw something interesting from Justin Fields' draft class. Only 1 quarterback is going to the postseason this year. And it's Trey Lance, who had nothing to do with them going to the postseason. So that just tells you everything that you have to know about how the NFL draft goes. And just, you're either lucky or not, So it's just, I don't like, Chris and I have these talks all the time about Caleb Williams. I don't like answering that question because is he a great quarterback? Yes. Do I think he's getting too much hype? Yes, because he did not have a great season this year.
Right.
I really don't think he had a great season this year. Is it because he got a little too much attention and maybe he got a little bit distracted and had a little too much of an ego? Yeah, he's 21 years old. Of course he probably had a big ego and his head got a little too big. But I still think he's a good quarterback. Would I be interested to see him go up against Justin Fields? Yeah, I would definitely be interested to see how that all shakes out. Because if anything, that's probably what the Bears would do is draft a quarterback, have a little one-on-one competition with Fields, and see who would the starting quarterback be. And if that starting quarterback is a rookie, that says all you need to know about Fields' performance. Has Fields gotten better this year? Yeah, absolutely. But it's just he can't read the defenses. He still can't read the defenses. He's still very much gun shy in the pocket. But I would love to see him thrive in a different organization.
It'll be interesting to see if they trade the number 1 pick or number 9 pick, as you said, Christine, if they throw in Justin Fields in that mix. So Atlanta's, and because he's from just outside Atlanta. So it'll be interesting. Like I said, we've got time to talk about it. I mean, look, the draft is until like April 23rd. So we've got a little, or 25th, I should say. So we got a little bit of time before all this stuff about should they trade it, and stuff like that. So so we'll get into all that as the day goes on. Now, some quick college football notes. Well, first, let's get this out of the way. Michigan, congrats to them, their first outright national championship. Of course, we know that they won, of course, 97 with with Brian Greasy and of course Steve Hutchinson and Charles Woodson in that group. That was a split championship though with Nebraska, so that's why this is their first outright championship since 1948. Of course, JJ McCarthy was most outstanding player on the offensive side. Blake
LaGrange Park native.
Yes, local kid. Yes. I keep forgetting he's a local kid too. He grew up not too far
local
from here.
kid.
Yeah, Blake Corum, Donovan Edwards each had 2 touchdowns and ran for over 100 yards. Blake Corum 134 yards. Mikey I gotta make sure Santer still. I think that's how I've been trying to say this guy there for like the last 3 years. I can never do that, but he had 8 total tackles, including the interception that kind of sealed the win there. So, what did you guys think? Were you surprised that Michigan was able to kind of dominate Washington, or were you surprised?
I felt really bad for Washington just because, Michigan's run game just dominated that defense. And I felt I said this the entire day. I'm like, I just hope both teams have fun because here you have Washington, South Dakota connection with Kalen DeBoer, and pretty much his whole coaching staff from South Dakota leading this team to a national championship. And then you got, of course, the Midwest team, Michigan, Jim Harbaugh, and then the LaGrange Park quarterback leading this team in a national championship. So I was pretty torn. So that's why I said I just hope both of these teams had fun and had a great experience out of it. So I'm happy that it was both of these teams that were in the national championship. But I do feel bad about the result for Washington because it was not a good game for them, especially for Michael Penix. He did not have the best game.
Yeah, as we said last week, Lakina, Michael Penix Jr. That he had a great game, but he was going to face a tough defense in Michigan. You saw what happened in that fourth quarter, and we also told you about that running game from Michigan too. I expected Blake Corum to have a great game, and that's exactly what happened. You saw Michigan's defense turn up, especially in that fourth quarter, and to put that game out of reach.
Yeah, just like it's like, well, look, you saw how he looked afterwards, all bruised and battered. That he was worn out by then, and we'll get to Kalen DeBoer. Also, shout out to your South Dakota State Jack.
Yes.
Dominate and win their second straight FCS title. Very
back to back, yeah.
Jack Rabbit. So the cover wasn't spared for him, down there. So a lot of those guys were there from last year's team. So congrats to them. All right.
And fun fact too about
go ahead, Christine. Sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say fun fact about the Jackrabbits. The quarterback, Mark, I can't say his last name. He's from Naperville, Illinois. So that's a little nugget there too. So yeah, back-to-back championships under a new head coach. Oh geez, what is it? I want to say Jimmy Johnson, but I know it's not. It's Jimmy Rogers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do I want to say Jimmy Johnson? That name just sticks in my head.
Well, speaking of, I guess legendary coaches, I guess we had three from that retired, I guess. Nick Saban, of course, Pete Carroll. Well, he's not retired, but he is gonna go to the front office for Seattle. And of course, Bill Belichick. Of course, we'll talk about a later date. Jared Mayo taking over as head coach. But were you guys surprised by any of these? Firings and such. I'll start with you.
The Nick Saban, yes. The other two, no.
I was surprised with Pete Carroll because I did not see that coming. I was in the gym on the treadmill and I saw it come up on the TV screen. And the funny part is I had Usher's song OMG playing. So when I looked up, I said, "Oh my God!"
There's irony for you.
So there's an irony for you, but I mean the energy that Pete Carroll brought to that team, and he's 71 years old, but even at his age, he was still so relatable to all the players, and they loved him. They still love him, and I saw a video of him talking to Gino, and you could tell that Gino was kind of beat up about the news of him not being the coach anymore. So it is disappointing to see him not be in that role anymore. I can't imagine Pete Carroll not being the coach of the Seahawks, just like I can't imagine Bill Belichick not being the coach of the Patriots anymore. But I mean, to have three legendary coaches like that, just back to back, insane. But legends in their own right. And I think Bill Belichick, I'm calling it. I think there's an opening for him in Seattle. It's a similar climate. It's a similar atmosphere. I'd say why not?
Well, yeah, I think also Atlanta. Yeah, I think Atlanta too is also another rumor. So, but if I were him, I would just retire. Like I get, unless he wants to show people that, hey, look, I didn't need a different system, so whatever. But not too surprised by the Belichick stuff. I'm a little surprised by Saban, but like we talked about before he came on, came on, Christine, that it's a grind. So yeah, 74 years old, he probably wants to kind of get away from all that. Same thing with Pete Carroll. I think, look, he doesn't look 71, but
No.
I'm sure he probably. I think this might be a mutual decision with him in the front office of Seattle. So I'm sure he'll have a hand on his successor. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Now, speaking of the successors, of course, Kalen DeBoer, of course, looks like is all but official. He'll be the new head coach at Alabama. So, Christine, I know that like we talked about. Played at University of Sioux Falls, won a national championship there. Also won a couple of championships himself as a head coach. So so tell folks about DeBoer and what do you think what he can do down there in Alabama?
I think his story is so cool. So he was an all-star wide receiver at the University of South Dakota, and he really worked his way up the ladder. So right after his time as a player at the University of South Dakota, he stayed in the University of Sioux Falls, excuse me. He stayed in the Sioux Falls area, and he became a high school coach. And from there, after a couple of years, he became a coordinator with the University of Sioux Falls. And then pretty quickly after that, he became the head coach at the University of Sioux Falls, getting 3 NAIA championships under his belt in 2006, 2008, 2009. And then the Washington job came up, and he's been kind of skyrocketing for the last number of years. What's really cool about his story, I think, is that ever since he started coaching at the University of Sioux Falls, he has brought in his coaching staff with him. So at the University of Sioux Falls, he brought them to Washington. So I'm assuming during this Alabama move, he's going to bring those coaches with him as well. So really, it's a whole South Dakota story in the making. And if they want someone that's going to get the job done, I think it's going to be Kalen DeBoer, because he definitely has a winning record, and he has a history of getting his teams to the postseason.
All right, Lakina, I know we're running up against it. The White Sox did release their promotional schedule for this year in 2024. We'll dig into a little bit more next week. But opening day, March 28th, clear tote bag is to give away. And of course, Saturday, March 30th against Detroit. White Sox hoodie for the first 15,000 fans.
Ooh, I like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll definitely be in the house for that. And of course,
Get me one, Sid.
I'll see what I can do. Family Sundays will return again this year for 12 Sunday home games. And Christine, save this date for you and your soon-to-be husband. Friday, August 23rd against Detroit. Guess what night that is?
Oh, gosh. Is it Elvis night?
You got it. Ding, 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 ding.
Okay. That's interesting.
The favorite Elvis night.
Oh, my gosh.
Yes.
We love Elvis night.
Like I said, we'll get more deep into the promotions next week. And of course, probably the biggest promotion this year will be Saturday, May 25th against Baltimore. The first 20,000 fans receive a Luis Robert Jr. bobblehead.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's not Elvis night. That's the biggest promotion.
Well, the biggest promotion for you, Christine, Elvis night. I'm all shook up.
Yes, you were all shook up here. On that note, you want to make sure to keep on the Twitter. X and Q's going to get the IG.
Ooh, yeah. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80. Christine, where can the lovely people follow you on social media?
They can follow me on Twitter at @Manika_KXRB.
And you still have that bird, huh?
I still have the bird, despite my updates.
Love it. I love it. Of course, you can catch Second City Sports every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube channel. One more time, catch Second City Sports every Monday and Friday, noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time on Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube channel.
And programming, no, we will be back here on Monday for the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. holiday. So no pre-taped segments. We'll be live here in 11 Color this Monday for MLK Day right here on Sports Zone Chicago as we give you our reviews for a Super Wild Card weekend. And, of course, the NBA and college basketball will be playing games on that day, too. So you want to kick it with us on Martin Luther King Day this Monday, starting at noon, Central Standard Time.
And of course, get Sports in Chicago anytime, anywhere. You can spend the time during the holiday catching up on Roku TV. Just go to the Roku TV app on your favorite app store. Type in Sports on Chicago. Catch our show, Sean and Maya, the Smoke Fellas, and What's Up Cuz, and a whole lot more. Just check it out right there on Roku TV.
And you know we will provide.
All right. So for Sada, Christine, I'm Lakina. Stay safe out there. Stay warm. Don't do anything silly unless you have to. Don't go out unless you absolutely have to. Stay safe out there, folks. This is Getsy Sports on Sports on Chicago, and we'll see you Monday.
Holla!